The Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, situated in the heart of the historic city of Monza in a royal park. As families enjoy the spring sunshine, around them they hear the sounds of round 2 of the Le Mans series warming up. Cars on the track for the second of 5 classic 1,000-kilometre endurance races that make up the Le Mans series. Perfect proving ground for the great prize, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Well, 3 weeks ago, the season began in Barcelona in Spain, with the first blows between Peugeot and Audi being struck. It was the battle that everybody had been looking forward to. Peugeot dominated last year's championship, Audi making the decision to race head-to-head with them in the European Series. In GT2, reigning champions Virgo Motorsport and Rob Bell started their year with a win. In GT1, the Luke Alphon Adventure Corvette kept the lead right through the race. In the growing, interesting LMP2 class, Peter van Merkstein and Jos Verstappen claimed the Porsche Spider's maiden Le Mans Series victory. The car's been ultra successful for 2 years in the USA. Now it's a winner in Europe as well. But on top of the pile was the Peugeot 908 of Marc Genet and Nicolas Minassian, ahead of Alexandre Premat and Mike Rockefeller in Audi's first R10. So first blood to the delighted Peugeot team. With Barcelona just the first of the 5 races that count for the series, and very different tracks at all of the venues could see the balance swing in any direction. Confirmation then, Peugeot on top in a battle with Audi, with the Charus Lola Aston in 3rd place. Porsche just beating the Lola Judd of the Sabre Racing team at the lead of the LMP2 category, and Ferrari and Corvette winning in the GT classes. Qualifying in Monza for all 4 classes once more, and the high-speed cathedral to Italian motor racing, seeing Germany and France battling it out at the front of the prototype class for the fastest cars. Well, as ever in qualifying, as in the race, the sights and sounds of a fully fledged sports car field are what bring the spectators out. Different sounds, different shapes of cars, different speeds, a whole gamut of emotions to run through. Early on in qualifying, it was the 2 Pescarolo Sports that were fastest, but Manu Collard's car having problems. The Oreca Courage with Olivier Panis was fast early on. Sayal Ayari you saw spinning out between the Lesmos in his Oreca car, until finally the diesels entered the fray. Nick Minassian clinched pole in his Peugeot, 3.5 seconds quicker than the 2007 pole position lap. Peugeot clearly had the pace in 2007. They didn't have the reliability when they needed it at Le Mans, but they were determined to improve both for 2008, and so it seems they have. Dindo Capello was the fastest of the Audis, more than 1.7 seconds off the pole position man's pace. And in the second of the Audis, the number 2 machine, Mike Rockefeller posting a second row time as well. And both the R10 TDIs being outpaced as Peugeot played a perfect qualifying game, using slipstreaming to their benefit around the high-speed track at Monza. The number 7 being towed down the straight by the number 8. Stefan Sarazan took second fastest time, joining his teammate on the front row of the grid. Peugeot showing shattering pace. Right there, Ralf Juttner and Tom Christensen, the Audi team, not able to match their rivals on outright speed. In LMP2, once again, Jos Verstappen was the quickest driver. The Dutch Porsche headed up a RS Spider 1-2-3, Horag Lister second, and the Essex team in third place in the small prototype class. The Corvette C6, shared by Olivier Beretta, Guillaume Moreau and Patrice Gousselard, was one of only 4 GT1 cars at the second round of the series. Factory driver Beretta setting pole, and Rob Bell claiming pole for Virgo Motorsport as their title defence continued in the GT2 class. So Peugeot keeping its pole position record alive, courtesy of Nick Minassian.
What's your opinion about the gap with the two Audis? The gap is quite big here at Monza.
You know, I never look behind me, so I don't know. I haven't even looked yet. But he's always good. The bigger the gap, the better. You know, they are very strong. They're always strong. So it doesn't mean much. You know, it's endurance. It's good. It's gratification for myself and for the team. But the race will be different. You know, we have to work really hard to win a race.
First blood nonetheless to Peugeot as they sweep the front row. Audis in team order behind them. The Lola Aston again, the best of the non-factory and petrol engine cars. LMP2 seeing the Porsche Spiders in top form. The Lola Judd and Lola MG struggling a little for pace. Well, starting an LMP1 car is not like a road car. You can't just jump in, turn the key and go.
Stan, this is a key, you know, to start my car. Is there any key in this car?
There is no key, I'm afraid, no. The closest thing we have to a key is a button we use for the starter motor, but no key.
Well, every morning the mechanics begin a long and delicate process needed to start the engine.
We preheat the engines so that the water temperature is above 40 degrees C before we start them. And also before we start the engines, we turn the engines over to make sure we have oil pressure and oil throughout the engine to lubricate the bearings so we don't have a failure.
Incredibly, it takes more than half an hour to start an engine this complex with 2 mechanics and an engineer working on it full time. Once the engine is at the proper temperature though, finally they can hit that starter button.
These cars are very big batteries, yes, because it's absolutely critical the engine starts under all conditions during the race, also in cold in the mornings. So these cars do have very specialised batteries, yeah.
The batteries must be strong enough to restart ultra-hot engines at every pit stop when the engine has to be switched off, and that takes plenty of power. Cars on the grid in bright spring sunshine at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for the 1,000 kilometres, one of the classic sports car endurance races. But drama before the start, befalling the number 2 Audi of Mike Rockenfeller and Alex Premer, not making it round to the grid. The ignominy of being towed into the pit lane before the start of round 2 of the series. And breaking the tow rope, not helping much either. Nick Minassian, the pole sitter. Marc Genet, though, ready to take the first stint in the red Peugeot. He gets himself suited up and ready to start. In second place, the second Peugeot, with Stéphane Sarrazin ready to take his first stint. And on the row behind, just one of the 2 Audis, Alain Magnish in the number 1 team, looking to see where the number 2 car has got to. No sign of Rockenfeller and Premer. Audi's young stars have a lot of ground to make up when they finally do get started. Wolfgang Ulrich there and Alex Premer chatting to Mike Rockenfeller as the team ready the car. It should be fit to start from the pit lane as everybody else is on their warm-up lap. Ralf Juttner and Wolfgang Ulrich on the left-hand side discussing what the problem was. It was a problem in the fuel metering system and it has now been fixed. As they get the green flag, away they go. Peugeot's leading the charge down to the first corner. 44 cars, 4 categories and 1,000 kilometres in front of them. The Peugeot's lead over the start line, the number 1 Audi in third, with the Lola Aston Martin looking very threatening right behind it. Lola Aston, a brand new project at the start of the season and already showing great pace. Using essentially the same engine that's in the DBR9s, but in a prototype body. And Aston Martin and Lola, great historic names from the past, now working well together. Back of the field, has already passed the end of the pit lane. Mike Rockenfeller then able to get things underway in the number 2 Audi, but with an awful long afternoon in front of him. Audi's mechanics have already earned their crust. So Peugeot leading and starting to stretch away immediately at the front of the field. Janae Minassian's car ahead of the sister car of Lamy and Sarrazin. And it looks as though starting driver Marc Genet in the red machine has really built up a very quick early lead, determined to leave everybody behind, including their sister car. Problems early on, first of all by the wayside, the Brookladdy Radical team. This is Mark Rostan who shares it with Jens Pedersen and Jan-Dirk Loiders. And the car stopped on the straight down towards the end of the lap, and the safety car forced out. Well, after the safety car, the lead 2 right back together. And the chance here for Stefan Sarrazin perhaps to challenge for the lead. Everybody else mixed up in the slower classes already. They started lapping the slowest of the cars after 5 laps. Big lock up from Genet. He holds on to the lead, but has he done any damage to the tyres? He's going to have to live with it now until the first scheduled pit stop, as he has. Problems behind though. This is Dindo Capello. The Audi badly damaged, missing most of its bodywork with a right rear puncture. Crawling back to the pit lane, safety car scrambled as the marshals will need to clear up the debris. In the Audi pit, they take the decision to try and repair the car, and this is why. Contact out of the Ascari chicane, and Dindo lucky not to barrel roll down the high-speed straight. After a contact, punctures one of the tyres and air gets under the car. Well, astonishingly, the Peugeot team see the accident in replay. Serge Saunier there saying how close that came to disaster.
Yeah, unfortunately I haven't seen what happened until now, so I can't give you any information. I just heard from Dindo that he was touched by somebody, but what happened afterwards I can't tell you. I just see that the car is really badly damaged and it will take quite some time to make it work.
There were 3 damaged corners, yet incredibly after changing a drive shaft and the suspension, Capello rejoined after only 17 minutes. Meanwhile, the battle was again hotting up. The second Audi, don't forget this started from the pit lane, so Audi looking like they're really in trouble. Now, in a battle to stay in contact with the leaders, the gap to the number 7 Peugeot already more than 15 seconds despite that safety car period. Here, chasing Sayala Yari, who had that off in his Orica run. Judd Courage. Ayari went off in qualifying, but the Audi slipping by. All drama at the front of the prototype field in the LMP1 class. In LMP2, Jos Verstappen in the purple and white Porsche Spider comfortably leading the pack, looking to add to the Barcelona victory he enjoyed with Peter van Merkstein, passing one of the GT2 Porsches in the fabulous historic Martini Porsche livery. Well, Verstappen and Van Merkstein leading in LMP2. GT1 though, big battle at the front of the class. Antonio Garcia and Thomas Enger sharing this Team Modena Aston Martin, and at this stage in the lead of the category from the Luc Alphand Avecha Corvette, moving out of the way to allow the Creation and the Peugeot to come through. This is the GT2 class leader, pole sitters Rob Bell, Gianmaria Bruni and the Virgo Motorsport Ferrari 430 GT. Won the class last year, won the category in Barcelona as well. Jimmy Bruni joining Briton Rob Bell in the car for 2008. And the pit stops, of course, so much a part of the race. When you race for 1,000 kilometres in 5 hours, you can't do it even in a diesel on one tank of gas. So the two diesel engine Peugeots running quickly and reliably. Marc Genet in for routine service from the race lead. And when the two Peugeots stop, the petrol engine Lola Aston Martin is not only the fastest non-factory and non-diesel car, but it has the race lead during the pit stops. Car driven by Stefan Mucker and Jan Charuz. Mucker leading the race early on, 34 laps in, an hour and a minute out of what is expected to be just over a 5-hour race. Porsche leading a tight battle at the front of the LMP2 category. And in GT1, it's Aston Martin versus Corvette. The Modena Aston Martin with the upper hand at the 1 hour mark. GT2 category, the Virgo Motorsport Ferrari holding the lead of the class until the pit stops, and the 75 Porsche of Raymond Narak and Richard Leitz uses its better fuel economy just to sneak in front at the 1 hour mark. Both Lola and Aston Martin have great sports car racing heritage, individually and together. Both firms are keen to re-establish themselves at the forefront of international endurance racing in the 21st century, using the Le Mans Series to develop this new joint project for 2008.
The drivers are involved, but also we have several engineers. We have an engine engineer who looks after all of the operation of the engine and the traction control and the air conditioning system. We have a data engineer whose responsibility is to look after all of the data that's acquired on the car, and we have the race engineer, and then also myself.
And with a new team to work with Charuz, there's always plenty to discuss.
Yeah, the speed is more important. So,
but without
too much front to get too much understeering. Yeah. Because if you follow a car in the race, you have more understeering. Yeah, you have to follow him, and for sure we have more understeering during a race.
Why do we have to
because
race
of
so
the
much?
switching. We won't.
It's extremely important. You know, each time we run the car, we're trying to extract the maximum amount of information from the engineers and from the drivers, so we can try and make the car faster and more reliable. So it's always really important to do a good debrief.
And all this hard work is already yielding results. The Lola Aston led after the first hour at Monza, although it did encounter problems later in the race. And that led to, eventually, a slightly disappointing result.
What's up with the car? The car had a pit stop, which was not in the schedule, and apparently it's a quite difficult restart. Can you tell us what happened exactly? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, and the mechanics are trying to figure it out. The engine is shutting off, and we think it might be a problem with the ECU.
It's of course very start, because it was a brilliant beginning of race.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Okay, thank you very much, Jan.
But still, the Lola Aston Martin leading early on in the race and showing very strong pace indeed. Well, in the warm-up, the French crew of the number 7 Peugeot suffered a transmission problem, and the lead car was not to run successfully and cleanly all the way through the race. Looking here at Stefano Telli and Soyela Yari in 5th place, but they're soon to come across the slow Peugeot of Nick Minassian, dropping already to 3rd place in the classification as he creeps towards the pit lane with, it seems, a repeat of the drive shaft problem. Number 2 Audi taking 2nd place overall as the number 7 Peugeot is pushed back into the garage, and now it's Peugeot's mechanics who are under the pressure.
But we are going to have a look on the car, but we think that we got a problem of drive shaft at the rear of the car. So we are going to have a look and to see what we can do.
So after 2 of the 5 hours, the favourites are just down to 1 car each. 1 Peugeot and 1 Audi, both their teammates a long way back in the race. And that leaves the Audi number 2 with Alexandre Prémat at the wheel as the German manufacturer's sole chance, it seems, of winning the race. For Peugeot, it's now down to the number 8 team, Pedro Lamy and Stéphane Sarrazin. They have the lead overall and in the LMP1 class. And they, it seems, will have to carry the French manufacturer's hopes to the checker if they can. Out on their own, showing exemplary pace in the race, 309 kilometres an hour. Not too far off the top speed of a Formula 1 car down into the first chicane at Monza. And that's just over 200 miles an hour. In the LMP2 category, starting from pole position and leading throughout, ex-Formula 1 driver Jos Verstappen and his privateer teammate Peter van Merkstein. They're doing a great job. Well, after contact here, Verstappen now forced to lose the lead of the LMP2 class and head back to the pits.
Somebody drove into me in the second chicane. A lot of cars, and I took it easy, but suddenly somebody hit me. I think he forgot to brake, I don't know, and so we had to repair the car. We lose a lot of time, and this is not good.
Monza's a long, fast circuit, and with 44 cars, it still seems like a busy place. Well, the ones to benefit are Team Essex in only their second race as a team, with the Porsche RS Spider, the veteran John Nielsen and his young protege Casper Elgaard grabbing the lead of the category that they had been battling with the other Porsches for early on. Great shot of Elgaard threading his way through slower traffic in the Parabolica. Well, the LMP2 category, like LMP1, is attracting more and more cars. The prototypes, it seems, really catching everybody's interest. Trouble too for the leader of the GT2 category, Rob Bell, picking up a puncture on some debris, and this is the first of 3 left rear tyre failures on the car. Real disappointment for the team because they had everything in terms of pace that they needed here. Lucky to hold on to it through the Variante Ascari with only 3 wheels on his wagon. GT1 battle being led by the Luc Alphand Aventure Corvette C6R. This is the same car that's raced by the Pratt & Miller team in the American Le Mans Series, the factory car, and indeed factory driver Olivier Beretta joining Guillaume Moreau and Patrice Goulart for the race, as he did in Barcelona. But there's a good battle because the Team Modena Aston with Antonio Garcia and Thomas Enger are running the Corvette very close, and the lead swapping between them depending on who is where in their pit stop schedule. Peugeot and Audi lead with Henri Pescarolo's number 16 car in 3rd place in the overall ranking, but after a couple of hours, still lots of racing left to go at Monza. Tyres play a vital part in every motorsport, and in the Le Mans Series, as the variety of cars is important, so is the variety of tyre manufacturers. And each of the manufacturers plays a very important role in guaranteeing the success of the cars they support.
After the first stint or second stint, if we go for several stints with the same set of tires, we bring the tires back here because it's our own property. They are what we call, most of the time, development tires, and we keep, the property of this tire because they are confidential. And then after they are worn out, they are not dead yet, of course, and we are going to get them back to Clermont and find, by not destroying them, but by putting them into pieces to find out what has happened to the tire during the life it was racing. And then that's the end of the tire.
Well, each of the tyre manufacturers brings a huge selection of compounds, both wet and dry weather tyres, and of course the staff required to fit them, sometimes in quite a hurry, to the cars that require them. With 54 cars in 4 categories, that's an awful lot of different bits of rubber.
We will give the recommendation on pressure, on cambage, but most of the time it has to be the decision of the team to race with such a tire or such a tire.
But for the teams who are working most closely with their tyre engineers, that can be a real bonus in a very experienced engineer. Well supported by Michelin, both the 2 front-running teams in the LMP1 category, Audi and Peugeot, running on the French team's rubber. And of course Michelin's racing division based at Clermont-Ferrand, the mountainous region of France, was once the home to the French Grand Prix. They've got plenty of history there and lots of knowledge. This is the number 2, Joest Audi of Mike Rockenfeller, Alexandre Prémat in second place, and into the pits comes the number 8 Peugeot, still leading the race as it comes in for a scheduled stop. Pedro Lamy handing over to Stéphane Sarrazin. It's not looking at the moment as though Peugeot are going to allow Audi Sports Reinhold Joest to have much of a celebration for this, his 71st birthday weekend. As the Peugeot sits refueling, the Audi rushing down towards the Parabolica. Now there is a slight difference between the 2 cars. The Peugeot seems to be outright the quickest, but the Audi still seems to have fuel economy on its side. It's going longer on each tank of fuel, and it's going to be a really fascinating season, seeing how this not quite tortoise versus hare, but extra speed versus extra economy situation works out. Number 2, after 2 hours and 20 minutes, taking the lead. Meanwhile, Peugeot back out on track as the number 2 car comes in for its scheduled pit stop, and so the lead flip-flops between the 2, and of course their 2 sister cars gradually working their way up through the order. Whatever else is going on, Audi and Peugeot do have the quickest cars at the track, so when they get delayed, it doesn't take them long to pick up quite a few places through the GT2, GT1 and LMP2 fields. Another picture-perfect routine stop for the number 2 Audi, rushing back out, but as ever finding itself in traffic with LMP2, LMP1 and GT2 cars all around it. In the P2 category, Porsche leading the way. The RS Spiders, so dominant in the P2 class in North America for the last 2 years, and now starting to find the upper hand here. This is number 27 Horag Racing car, Freddie Lienhard, Didier Thys and Jan Lammers. That's second in the P2 category, 9th overall behind the Essex car of Casper Elgaard and John Nielsen. Pescarolo Judd in 3rd place, number 35 car. And that's a tight battle at the top of the GT2 category, run by Serge Saunier, who not only runs his own racing team, but of course is also the man in charge of Peugeot's sporting activities in the category. Coming up behind the 75 Porsche, the Matmut IMSA car, 2 of those cars in the race, and that was the Richard Ballandra machine. GT1 lead battle still seesawing between this car, which holds it at the moment, Antonio Garcia and Thomas Enger's Modena Aston Martin, and the Luc Alphand Adventure Corvette. Disappointing really to see the big GT class so thinly supported here. It's got plenty of quality. What we need now is a few more Corvette or Aston Martin runners to come out and enjoy the spectacle of 1,000-kilometre races in the Le Mans series. You see the Audi behind of Alan McNish on a mission. Don't forget that car started at the front, but after Dindo Capello's accident, behind the number 2 machine, which started from the pit lane. And Raymond Norak and Richard Lietz in the 76 IMSA Performance Porsche, which has got strong recent history, the team in the Le Mans 24 Hours. They're going strongly now in the GT2 class after Rob Bell's Virgo Motorsport Ferrari picked up its first puncture. It handed over the lead to the Porsche in the GT2 class. And of course that is the brand new Porsche RSR. Peugeot and Audi still dominating, with Pescarolo third with his number 16 car in the LMP1 category. And class battles going on all the way down the field. 3 hours in, still 2 hours of racing left, and everything yet to play for. So often the case that even after 1,000 kilometres of racing, it can almost literally come down to the last lap to decide positions between the cars. Well, in the Le Mans series and endurance racing generally, more than any other form of motorsport, mirrors are so important. With 4 categories at different speeds sharing the same track, seeing what's around you is super important.
Luckily, you know, this diesel engine runs really nice and smooth, so there's not so much vibration. Of course, from the wind, the mirror is a little bit vibrating, but actually it's not too bad. I mean, you can't see the smallest sticker on their car for sure, but you can see the shape of the car, and you know what car it is. So basically, as you see, they are quite big, and you can see quite a lot.
Well, everybody needs to watch their mirrors, except perhaps the fastest guys in the LMP1 class. But for instance, the GT2 winner was passed by prototype winner 21 times in the 1,000 kilometers.
You look in the front for sure, but you see something in the mirror, you see some colors in the mirror, there's some cars, you see some lights, and you just look up quickly in the mirrors and you see there's a car coming, and you see if it's a GT car or LMP car, and then you basically know after the experience you have after 2 or 3 years, you know what cars they are and how fast they're going. And for example, when the Peugeot are coming, even when they're far behind on the straight line, they will catch you in the corners. And when you see an LMP2 car, it's not so bad. You can wait a little bit, maybe for the next corner, to let them by.
Well, visibility can be a real concern. Some teams have now developed a rear-view camera.
The classical mirror, everyone knows, is the same than normal car. And here we have a special camera in board. Let me put the master on. Here we are. You can see that we have a fantastic view on the back, and this is a big help. Why? Because sometimes you can have a very difficult condition where you can have fog inside the cockpit, and on the side obviously you cannot reach the mirror, so you don't know. And on the back you don't have any view because you don't have the normal mirror inside the cockpit. So we have the camera and we can see exactly what's going on in the back. I think it's very safe, it's very good, and is a big help during the night, when the morning comes, when the night comes down, and mainly when it's raining.
Alexandre Prémat behind the wheel of the number 2 Audi in second place, trying to somehow apply pressure to the lead Peugeot. The race is going to go dry all the way through, so it'll be a little over 5 hours, and every minute on track is absolutely critical. It's called endurance racing, but it's an endurance physically and mentally for the driver as well as for the car, because it is absolutely flat out. 5 hours of sprint racing at as close to qualifying pace as they can manage. Further back, the 2 delayed cars. Number 1 car of Alain McNish and the number 7 car of Nick Minassian. Minassian trying to find a way by the Audi. Now this is really all about just dogged determination not to give up, because they're at nearly 300 kilometers an hour, battling nose to tail for 17th position at this stage. But with 2 hours of racing left to go, it's worth fighting for every inch of track. Minassian makes a forceful move down the inside into the Roggia and goes by McNish. 17th place changes hands. Further forward, 3rd place for Henri Pescarolo's squad, the number 16 Pescarolo Judd, with Manu Collard and Jean-Christophe Bouillon on board. Collard looking really strong at this stage. Bouillon driving the car. Third place in the LMP category, third place overall then. The LMP1 cars are the fastest of the LMP categories. LMP stands for Le Mans Prototype. And the Category 1 cars, heavier, more powerful, generally with bigger engines. The LMP2 cars, a little lighter, better on fuel economy, less powerful engines. Number 16 car catching up to the sister machine of Harold Premat and Christophe Tanso, but they are a lap apart in fact. See the headlights flashing, McNish coming in the Audi. He is several laps behind the Pescarolos, but determined to make his way through whatever traffic he can as quickly as possible. In the pits, the number 5 Orica team car, these Courage chassis with their Judd engines, run by Hugues de Schoenak's Orica team. Stefan Ortelli and Sayal Ayari. Ortelli, a former Le Mans winner, in fact shared a winning Porsche with Alain McNish. Ayari handing over to his teammate. Meanwhile, drama further back in traffic. It's Manu Collard who suffers a total brake failure. Car goes straight through the chicane, through the runoff areas, and spins out of control backwards into the barriers. Henri Pescarolo, 33 races as a driver at Le Mans and still going back year after year. And Collard there, amazingly, somehow managed to snatch the car away from the back of those in front. And very fortunate for everybody concerned that there was no impact other than for that car. Well, he steps out and walks away from that, looking back at the car, and that is showing every sign of a driver who has no idea what went wrong, but he knows for a fact it wasn't the nut loose behind the wheel. So meanwhile, this is the Creation, number 15 car, driven by Robbie Kerr and Bruce Giovanni, and they're joined in the race by Stuart Hall, who was due to share the sister car, but that was victim of a huge crash in qualifying. Driver Jamie Campbell-Walter was hospitalised after the crash with back injuries, and in fact turns out he cracked 4 vertebrae in that accident, having to make it back with teammate Stuart Hall to the UK for further treatment, courtesy of Budget Airlines rather than some super efficient medevac. And as they're in traffic, the Creation battling with the number 17 Pescarolo Judd, Harold Premat and Christophe Tanso. Henri Pescarolo watching the battle on the monitors, and as it flashes by the pit wall, and right behind them, of course, the lead battle in the GT1 class. Team Modena Aston Martin and the Luc Alphon Corvette, nose to tail, just inches between these pairs of cars as they squabble for position. This is for third place in the race. Stuart Hall hanging on in the Creation, and Christophe Tanso trying to use all his experience to take the position away from the young Briton. Can't cross the white line to the driver's right, that's the penalty line. Tanso using the toe, gets alongside. Hall with the inside line. Late on the brakes, Tanso just with the tiniest overlap. Stuart Hall keeps the Creation in front for the moment. After Tanso's abortive move, it'll take him the rest of the lap to try and catch up, and the Virgo Motorsport Ferrari creeping round in front of them with yet another puncture. 4 hours in, it's Peugeot, Audi and Creation and Pescarolo now battling for third place overall. The 31 Porsche RS Spider, Casper Elgaard and John Nielsen leading in the LMP2. The Aston Martin and the Corvette half a second apart in the GT1 category, and the GT2 battle still soaring backwards and forwards between the Porsche and the Ferrari at the head of the field.
Hi, my name is Alan McNish, and I'd like to present you my helmet. Basically, I've used Arai now since 1993, so over 15 years. What I do is I've got always 2 helmets completely ready with different visors. This one here has a darker visor, and so in sunlight, but the one here has got a clear visor. This sometimes can change though, because if it's a very wet race, then maybe I'll use like a yellow tint to try and bring out the curbs or maybe some of the things in the darker more dirty conditions. These straps, not only do they fasten, but if you pull them out, you can see you can get a much larger aperture, and then you can fit. If you don't, then it pulls your ears up and down, and then it can hurt a little bit. We also have got a radio system in here. I've got little earplugs that fit directly into my ears, and then they plug into this part here. That end plugs into the car, and then it means I've got direct communication to the pits and them to me. Unlike, say, for example, the Peugeot, and those guys will drive with the visor up. We drive with the visor down, but we also have these tear-offs here. And it's a little thin perspex that goes onto the visor. It clips here and on the other side. And when it gets dirty, you just rip it off and throw it away. And when I say rip it off, it's off. It just pulls very quickly, gone, and then you've got a clean vision again.
Could you start a race with a helmet of anybody else?
No, because it's like a shoe, a good shoe that you've run in and you feel comfortable with and everything else, and the helmet is exactly that. To say it's your best friend, helmets have saved my life. In accidents that we have, and we have to remember that motor racing, sometimes these happen, that when you hit your head hard against something, these things save my life. And so from that point of view, there are definitely at times when I have thanked my lucky stars that I've had one of these sitting on my head.
Well, here coming up is one of those incidents. This is just towards the closing stages of the race. One of the most spectacular accidents that Monza has witnessed in many years, and Stefan Ortelli was the victim. The car gets sideways as something breaks under braking. Across the grass as he's spinning, air gets under the car, and then it starts to cartwheel. Various different corners hitting the deck as it rattles across the chicane, having narrowly missed Alan McNish's car. McNish at this stage, incidentally, already on the radio to Audi saying, get a doctor here fast, he's going to need one. Ortelli's car luckily hits the barriers with the bottom surface first. From the reverse angle you see quite clearly it goes within inches of McNish's Audi. And here McNish's view of the debris cartwheeling across. And Stefan Ortelli didn't quite walk away from that one, a suspected broken ankle, but it looked like it was going to be so much worse. You see the reaction there from the team in the Orica garage to that enormous accident. Of course, the safety car being scrambled for clear-up operations there. The leader of the race, still the number 8 Peugeot, but with the end of the race fast approaching, the battle in sight. The number 1 Audi, beg your pardon, in front at this stage. The Peugeot closing in. Again, this is because the difference in their pit stop strategies. Oh, see how hard Pedro Lamy is pushing. Tail of the Peugeot stepping out there through the parabolica. And the race leader, Mike Rockenfeller in the Audi. Pedro Lamy closing in the final few minutes of the race. Pedro Lamy catching traffic at the chicane, having to dig his way through, and now closing on the back of the Audi. Well, this was shaping up to be a hugely entertaining finale. The Peugeot clearly quicker, but Rockenfeller in the Audi determined not to let him get through, and when Lamy overcooks it, he goes straight across the chicane to take the lead. Now, everybody understands that there is a penalty for that. Even the mechanics watching it know what the drama is. And generally speaking, if you then give away the place that you've got by leaving the official part of the racetrack, you are not penalised. The Peugeot driver decides to stay in front of the Audi and argue the toss later. The officials are quick to act then. This is, after all, for the lead of the race between 2 major manufacturers. They are not going to sit on their thumbs, and a stop-and-go penalty is assessed for car number 8. Rockenfeller shoots back in front between the Lesmos. Alexandre Prémar loving that move. Well, maybe there, once assessed the stop-and-go, the Peugeot allowed the Audi to go through, but Before he comes back in, Rockenfeller makes a move to try and get back in front. There's contact, and the Audi has a puncture as a result. Now, the Peugeot still has to come into the pits for a stop-and-go penalty, but it's driving round at full pace. Rockenfeller creeping round now, desperate not to allow that broken front tyre to ruin the race. Wolfgang Ulrich, the head of the Audi Motorsport project, absolutely beyond words there. Contact between the Audi and the Peugeot, and instant deflation of that left front wheel is the result. Well, it's all because of a miscommunication. Rockenfeller thought that the penalty would not be applied and that he'd still have to beat the Peugeot on the track.
Yeah, for sure we are very disappointed because we had a puncture, because we had a collision with the Peugeot. But I think it's very unfair from Peugeot because they had they overtook us on the first chicane and they crossed. Then after 5 laps they realized that he was unable to let him pass, just to be in front, and I think it's very unfair. But the problem, okay, we had a puncture, but anyway, after that maybe the rules from SEO need to react because Peugeot touched us and we had a puncture, so I think it's not unfair from Peugeot and ACO. We are very disappointed about this because if not we could have won the race for Audi, so it's very shame, definitely.
Thanks very much.
Well, behind that battle, here is the battle for third place in the closing stages. Christoph Tanso and Stuart Hall. Hall in the Creation, Tanso in the Pescarolo, finally squeezing through in the last laps to take that third place. On board with Pedro Lamy, rushing round the final lap aboard Peugeot's number 8 908 HDI. Having served his stop-and-go penalty, he got back out in front of the Audi, and so it's win number 2 of the series for Peugeot. They take the Monza 1,000 kilometres. Stefan Sarrazin happy, celebrating with the Peugeot team. Clearly they feel that they served their stop-and-go penalty, and there was nothing wrong with the racing move between Pedro Lamy and Mike Rockenfeller. The Audi team could not look more disappointed though.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, with the pace car, we just refueled the car. We didn't have new tires, so I think Audi was faster, a bit faster the first few laps. And then I managed to catch him, and it was a nice fight.
A very tight moment at the end there, a bit of contact.
Yeah, it's true, it was a bit of contact, but that's racing. That's why I'm here.
Thanks very much, Pedro.
This race was really difficult, but the last 10 laps was amazing with Audi, so it was good, very exciting, and I'm very happy for the team. They did a really good job.
LMP2 winners, Essex Racing's John Nielsen and Casper Elgaard in their Porsche RS Spider.
Oh, I'm very, very happy. This is only the second race for Team Essex outside of Denmark, so to win already is just fantastic. This race was really a team effort. All the guys did a fantastic job in the pit, and really that was where we won this race.
Antonio Garcia and Thomas Engers, Team Modena Aston won GT1.
It's great to have come here and had a very tough, good, hard, fast battle with the Luc Alphon lead Corvette, with Olivier Beretta, Moreau and Guzzelard, who are always very competitive. So it's been great to have had a good, strong fight with them, and this time to have won.
Well, the 76 Porsche won the class at the flag, but they were later excluded, and so the win goes to the Felbermeyer Porsche of Lars-Erik Nielsen, Richard Westbrook and Alan Simonson. It was a Farnbacher 1-2 as the Ferrari of Pierret and Pierre Keffer took second place in the GT2 class. And there's the Essex boys on top of the podium. Team Modena winning in the GT1 category. And Raymond Noack and Richard Lietz unfortunately losing their on-the-road victory because of a technical problem in the scrutineering bay. But that's it then for the 1,000 kilometres of Monza. Peugeot just winning over Audi, with the delayed cars, note, in 5th and 6th places after their respective problems. So, what's going to happen next time out? Well, in a fortnight from now, they'll be at Spa-Francorchamps around the mighty Ardennes track, and all bets are off. It's too close to call in GT1 and GT2. It's even closer than that in the prototypes LMP1 and LMP2. You can catch all the highlights of the excitement, the beginning of the race live on Eurosport, and the highlights after the dust has settled. Join us then. Till then, it's bye for now.